Okay, so hello guys. My research is about um, film genre and film score styles. So basically, I wanted to explore if we can fit some sort of Chinese element into a Western score while it's attached to a Western film. Um, so when open door policy was established by the United States in the 1900s to protect their ability to continue trading with the Chinese, there was an increase in foreign influence in China. Ever since, Chinese composers have been featuring Western compositional techniques in Chinese films. Today, there's a lot of Chinese films in China are featuring Western orchestral music, and to the point where there's almost more Western music than Chinese music for the Chinese film industry. And since the 1940s, Chinese composers have been featuring Western compositional techniques in their compositions. Although many study music in a Western format, but they did not intend to salvage Chinese music by structuring them like Western music, far from wanting to relinquish their native roots. In the film industry, it was no different. In the early development of Chinese film industry, composer was already featuring Western music in the film score. And today, there are much more examples like that. So first, I just wanted to go over some of the Chinese orchestral music instruments because they share a striking similarity to Western orchestra. Um, so here I listed four really common traditional Chinese instruments. They have a lot of similarities, but it would be a mistake to think they're the same instruments. So for example, the erhu, which is the first one, it's a bowed string instrument, so it's similar to a violin, but they sound very different. So here's an example. And now let's go to the next one. This is called a pipa, which have four strings. It's a plucked instrument like a guitar. However, the sound are very different and the techniques are much different too. So here's an example of what this sound like. And going to the next one, this is called a guzheng, which is also a plucked instrument, but because of the size of the instrument, it has a lot more bass notes in there. So you can hear the difference. And last but not least is dizi, which is a flute instrument, and it is made of bamboo. Yeah, so here comes my research question. How natural can Chinese instrument be featured in Western films without giving a geographic cue or setting? So geographic cues basically means if you're looking at some sort of Chinatown, you instantly hear some sort of traditional Chinese music. But I was wondering if I could use Chinese music without giving a hint of the location. And so number two is similar to the first one. Can Chinese style film scores fit into a Western film without creating disconnection to the image? And now, so for my experiment, I composed two pieces of music with the same melody and same chord structure, but orchestrated different. And basically, I just wanted people to watch the film and see what they think about the music. So my music material features same harmonic structure, same melody, orchestrating two different styles, Western and Chinese, attached to the same film clip. And for my visual material, I used a film from 2009 called Avatar. So the scene I'm using is a beautiful flying scene, and it has no dialogue. And the background scenery is actually filmed in China, but not many people know that, and I didn't give any hints. And in my research, I recruited 40 participants, 17 from a film scoring class, 18 from music cognition class, and 5 others. So it's from other majors as well as some of my coworkers as well. Here's some general information about the participant. So 65% male, 23% female, 12% other, age average of 25, nationality, most of them are Canadian. And 65% have over 5 years of formal music training. And 12% of the participants have never seen the film before. So for my procedure, I played both clips to both class as well as my individual participants. And then I ask them to answer some general question first, which is about their gender, age, and etc. And then I make them watch the first one, and then they will rate the video 1 out of 10 in terms of how well does the music fit the film. 1 being doesn't fit at all, 10 being fits very well. And then I also ask them to write down in a few sentences of why they rate it that way. And then they will watch the second film and then do the same thing. And it's worth to mention that I told them you're not allowed to change your ratings after watching the second one. And the film clips are also counterbalanced between the 2 classes as well as individual participants. Now I would like to show you both films. They're fairly short. Okay, next I would like to show you, so that was the Western orchestration, and the next one I would like to show is the Chinese one. I made a little change to the video, so I added some words on there to kind of tell you what instrument, the Chinese instrument is being featured at the moment. So here we go. Okay, so as a result, 63% of the participant preferred the Western style score. And next I'd like to go into some of the details. So before I do that, I just wanted to mention what happened to the Chinese film score. What I did is that I replaced the melodic lines from the Western orchestration. I replaced it with the Chinese instrument, and I added some counterpoints, as well as some little embellishments here and there. And the main thing I did was I took out the brass instrument from the Western score because Chinese traditional instruments do not feature any sorts of brass instrument at all, which create a little bit missing kind of the mid-range depth to the score. So it kind of sounds a little bit flat, which I will address later on because some of my participants also said something about it too. So now from the film scoring class, which they heard the Chinese score first, 76% of the participants preferred the Western style score. They gave it an average of 9 with standard deviation of 0.77. And so on the other hand, the Chinese one was an average of 8 and with standard deviation of 0.82. Next, in music cognition class, they heard the Western score first. However, it was 50 and 50, with the Chinese being rated 8, standard deviation of 1.57, and the Western the same as well, but it's a little bit lower in the deviation there. I think because the class contains students from neuroscience who has little music training, that could be a possibility of the reason they picked maybe the Chinese one. I will address some of the comments from them after. So my other participant, 50% of them heard the Chinese score first, and 75% preferred the Western style score and rated 9 in average with deviation of 0.47. And on the other hand, there's only one participant preferred the Chinese one, and he gave it 8 out of 10. Here's some of the comments from the Chinese score. So positive side, they say it's unique, exotic temperament, very intense, fits the vibe, has some Asian influence which fit the tropical scenery as well. It's sounding very interesting. And some of the people prefer the Western because they're saying the Chinese one, some of them realized about the major pentatonic, which have a very Eastern sound. Also, some of the participants said that they sounded very Asian. Lack of richness, I think that part of the reason was because I took out the brass instrument, which kind of killed a lot of the depths of the score. And some of them were expecting Chinese culture. So majority of them kind of realized it's a Chinese style score. Now for the Western score, the positives is that people are saying it's very powerful, familiar instrumentation, sounding very Hollywood-like, intense, especially the ending, have depth and richness, dynamic score, epic, peaceful, and majestic. The negative side is some people saying it sounds very flat, not memorable, so kind of like too ordinary, too modern sounding, lack of energy, sounded Asian. I don't know why would the participants say that compared to the Chinese, but that was one of the comments, which was kind of interesting. Not exciting enough and lack of correlation. So those are my some of the comments. Here are some of the problem I think with my research. First one is that I found it a little bit difficult to achieve realistic sound with just MIDI instruments. So it's very difficult to have a kind of realistic theater sound. Second, the lack of knowledge and experience with Chinese orchestration. So this was my first time experience with Chinese instruments. And before this project, I've never done anything with the Chinese orchestration before, and I have no knowledge about it. So I was doing some research about how to put everything together. Also, majority of the participants are music major students, I think. So they are listening from a kind of professional point of view. So I think most of them realize the music sounded a little bit too Eastern-like. Also, why did the experiment in the classroom? The poor sound quality, I think, affected the listening experience. So I think some participants may find it not very good. Some are saying missing bass because the stereo speaker in the classroom was very bad. Here's some suggestions for future studies. May recruit participants with no musical trainings and see something about the result. Just like the experiment I did in the music cognition class, which featured neuroscience students, I think I was getting 50-50. I think one of the bigger reasons was because they have little music training, like almost half of the class. Maybe a reorchestrate of the original score instead of writing complete new score to the scene. Maybe compose a more industry standard composition, so maybe better composed music. Possible live recording of the instruments to make it sound a little bit more realistic. Also experiencing with other cultural influencing scores and films. So maybe try with Indian music. They have something very different from the Western music because they feature a lot of microtones. And yeah, this is my research. Thank you.
Thank you, Feifei. Very, very good presentation.
Thanks.
Yeah, so comments, questions. Okay, Chris, you want to comment?
Well, I thought the Chinese version was very put together. So.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that was
I have
great.
a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, so I was curious, actually. I don't really remember what the original score for that film sounded like. Like, how much did you deviate from the original score in that scene?
Oh, it was completely different. The original score featured a female vocal, and the orchestration was very, very light. I think it has maybe just a few instruments where people can pick up. So it was very, very light composed.
Okay, cool.
Amazing.
Oh.
Carla, do you want to comment?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, basically just what I said in there. It was a very easy presentation to follow. And yeah, great job with like your compositions as well. Like,
thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think you need to say that for future research it needs to be better composed. I mean, that was awesome.
I just thought it can be even better. So
yeah, it can always be better, but I think it was really good. But you can say that the speakers of the classroom are terrible. Thank you. Yeah, yes. You can even publish it. That's all good. Mm-hmm. Maybe that will help us find a way to change that. Yeah, I mean, maybe we could take one more question. We have time. One more comment.
Hey, yes, Toby here.
Hi.
Hey, Feifei, great job on that presentation.
Thanks.
And also the composition. I was just wondering if you tried it to kind of like do the comparison backwards. So to compose, let's say, something original in a Chinese style of orchestration, mm-hmm. And then you know, because I feel like the way that the Chinese orchestration is, if you try to invert from the Western music of style, right? You know how long the notes are, you know, like the rhythm, you know, the style of instrumentation. There's so much of a difference if you try to compose with the exact same notes in the Chinese, right? It won't really reflect as well. So I was wondering, try it backwards from starting off with the Chinese, and then obviously, you know, like composing a Western style with the same notation, and I guess just doing it both ways and see how people react to it.
Right, that's very interesting. I think that way I can actually, I think my Chinese score would sound much more natural. And I think Western orchestration, it's very flexible in terms of what kind of melody or notes they're putting in there. That was very interesting. I should try that for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, great comments, Toby. Thank you. And yeah, I think that could be a future research, Feifei, instead of saying you need to compose better.
Right. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, and thank you for adding the instruments, you know, the way you did the layout of the video, the Chinese one, it was super helpful. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I find that, yeah.
That is great.
Thank you.